1. The city at the center of the world, Jerusalem. A city barely larger than a modern suburb, yet for over 3,000 years it has stood at the crossroads of faith, empire, and destiny. It's been destroyed at least twice, besieged more than 20 times, and conquered by a dozen empires. Why? Because Jerusalem is more than land. It's an idea, sacred, symbolic, and endlessly disputed. To Jews, it is the ancient city of King David and the site of Solomon's temple, the physical heart of their covenant with God. To Christians, it is the stage of Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection, the center of divine redemption. And to Muslims, it is Al-Quds, home to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and the place from which the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven during the night journey. No other city on earth holds such overlapping sacred claims, and that intersection of faith has made Jerusalem the most contested piece of real estate in human history. 2. The ancient struggle, kingdoms, empires, and exile. The earliest conflicts over Jerusalem go back to around 1000 BCE, when King David captured it and made it the capital of ancient Israel. His son Solomon built the first temple, a monumental house of worship to the God of Israel. But Jerusalem's location, perched between Egypt and Mesopotamia, made it strategically and spiritually valuable. Empires soon came calling. The Babylonians destroyed the first temple in 586 BCE and sent the Israelites into exile. The Persians later allowed their return and the rebuilding of the Second Temple. Then came the Greeks under Alexander the Great, and finally the Romans, whose legions crushed a Jewish revolt in 70 CE, leveling the Second Temple and scattering much of the Jewish population. The Romans renamed the city Aelia Capitolina, and for centuries it lay within pagan, Christian, and later Islamic realms. Yet the Jewish longing for Zion endured. 3. The birth of a sacred competition. When Christianity became the religion of the Roman Empire, Jerusalem transformed from a provincial ruin into a holy destination. Emperor Constantine's mother, Helena, journeyed there in the 4th century, identifying sites like the Holy Sepulchre as sacred to Jesus' life and death. By the Middle Ages, Christian pilgrims from across Europe flocked to Jerusalem, walking the same streets where they believed Christ had carried his cross. For the Byzantine Empire, controlling the city was both a spiritual and political necessity. But in 638 CE, Muslim armies under Caliph Umar conquered Jerusalem. Islam regarded the city as the third holiest site after Mecca and Medina, and the Dome of the Rock was built atop the ancient Temple Mount, an architectural masterpiece and a symbol of Islamic devotion. From that moment, Jerusalem became the shared and contested heart of 3 monotheistic religions. 4. The Crusades, God, glory, and blood. By the late 11th century, tensions between Christian and Muslim powers ignited one of history's most infamous wars, the Crusades. When the Seljuk Turks restricted Christian pilgrimages to Jerusalem, Pope Urban II called for a holy war to reclaim the Holy Land. Tens of thousands of knights and peasants marched under the cross, believing they were fighting for God's kingdom on earth. In 1099, the Crusaders captured Jerusalem after a brutal siege. What followed was a massacre, Muslims and Jews slaughtered within the city's walls. For nearly a century, Jerusalem became the capital of a Christian kingdom, but in 1187, Salah ad-Din, known in the West as Saladin, reconquered the city, not with vengeance, but with mercy. His restraint became legendary. The Crusades would continue for centuries, each side claiming divine justification. Yet Jerusalem remained caught between faith and power, sacred passion, and political control. 5. Between empires, Ottoman calm and European intrigue. For the next 400 years, from 1517 to World War I, Jerusalem lay under Ottoman rule. It was a quieter era, no great battles, but constant reverence. Pilgrims still came, religions coexisted uneasily, and the city remained symbolically charged. But as European powers rose, so did new ambitions. Britain, France, and Russia all sought influence in the Holy Land, each claiming to protect different religious communities. Even Napoleon dreamed of marching into Jerusalem to unite East and West under his banner. By the 19th century, the Ottoman Empire was crumbling. Western archaeology, missionary work, and Jewish immigration all returned the city to global attention. Jerusalem, once an imperial backwater, became again the focus of the world's spiritual imagination and political calculation. 6. The British Mandate and the seeds of modern conflict. When the British captured Jerusalem from the Ottomans in 1917, during World War I, it marked the dawn of a new era and new struggles. The British promised both a homeland for Jews through the Balfour Declaration and self-determination for Arabs. Two promises that could not coexist peacefully. As Jewish immigration increased through the 1920s and 1930s, tensions erupted between Jews and Arabs. The Holy City became a flashpoint of competing nationalisms, Zionism and Arab identity, each rooted in deep historical and spiritual claims. When the United Nations proposed partitioning Palestine in 1947, Jerusalem was to become an international city. But when Israel declared independence in 1948, war broke out. By its end, Jerusalem was divided, west controlled by Israel, east by Jordan. For the first time in millennia, barbed wire and soldiers cut the sacred city in half. 7. The Six-Day War and the Modern Dilemma. In 1967, during the Six-Day War, Israel captured East Jerusalem, including the Old City and its holy sites. For Jews, it was a moment of triumph. Israeli soldiers stood before the Western Wall, the last remnant of the Second Temple, for the first time in nearly 2,000 years. For Muslims and Christians, however, it marked another loss, another shift in control of the sacred. Since then, Jerusalem has been both the heart of Israeli identity and a symbol of Palestinian displacement. Israel declared the entire city its eternal and indivisible capital. Palestinians continue to claim East Jerusalem as the capital of a future state. And the world, divided between recognition and rejection, watches, each generation inheriting the same question: who, if anyone, truly owns Jerusalem? 8. The spiritual paradox. One city, many heavens. At its core, the conflict over Jerusalem isn't just about territory, it's about meaning. Each faith sees the city as a bridge between earth and the divine. But when heaven and politics mix, compromise becomes nearly impossible. For Judaism, Jerusalem is where God's presence once dwelled in the temple and where it may return again. For Christianity, it is the sacred theater of salvation, where death gave way to resurrection. For Islam, it is the site of ascension, the threshold between mortal life and eternity. How can any side let go of what they see as God's own ground? Even peace agreements, like those between Israel, Egypt, and Jordan, leave Jerusalem unresolved. Because to divide it feels like dividing the divine. 9. The modern battleground: politics, faith, and identity. Today, Jerusalem remains the emotional epicenter of one of the world's most enduring conflicts. Every stone, every street corner carries layers of history and tension. The Temple Mount, or Haram al-Sharif, is both the holiest site in Judaism and one of the holiest in Islam. Even the smallest event there can ignite regional or global unrest. For Israelis, control of Jerusalem validates their ancient connection and modern nationhood. For Palestinians, it represents the soul of their struggle, the hope for dignity, land, and recognition. And for billions around the world, it remains a spiritual compass, pointing to the mysteries of faith and the tragedies of human division. 10. Beyond conflict, the idea of Jerusalem. But perhaps the deeper question isn't who owns Jerusalem, but what Jerusalem means. To the prophets, it was called the City of Peace. Yet few cities have seen more war. Maybe that contradiction is the real lesson. Jerusalem mirrors the human condition, our longing for transcendence, our fear of loss, and our inability to reconcile the two. It endures because it matters, not just politically, but spiritually. Every empire that has tried to control it, from Babylon to Britain, eventually faded. But Jerusalem remains, layered with ruins and prayers, conflict and hope. It is the city of memory and the mirror of mankind. Until humanity learns to make peace with itself, the struggle for Jerusalem will never truly end. Epilogue: the eternal city of the human heart. In the end, Jerusalem's endurance is both tragic and magnificent. It reminds us that humanity's greatest strength, our passion for meaning, can also be our greatest weakness when turned into possession. As long as belief shapes nations and faith defines identity, Jerusalem will remain sacred, disputed, and alive. Not because of who controls it, but because it sits at the intersection of heaven and history, where the divine touches the dust of human dreams. Join us on a journey through the ages, where every question becomes an opportunity to discover. Subscribe now and start exploring life's greatest questions with us.